Right, and as we end the formal meditation, let's take a few moments to establish our refuge and cultivate our bodhicitta motivation. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing generosity, ethics, patience, joyous effort, concentration, and wisdom, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing generosity, ethics, patience, joyous effort, concentration, and wisdom, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing generosity, ethics, patience, joyous effort, concentration, and wisdom, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. All right. So good to be back. I am very grateful to let everyone know that my surgery went extremely well. Just hard to express how well it went. I virtually had no pain, didn't even need an ibuprofen in the whole process. And so really grateful. Sorry I missed last week, but feel good to be back here and grateful to have an opportunity to share in the Dharma with all of you. Our time here, we have, looks like about 50 minutes. We're tapping into the wisdom section of the teaching and the Heart Sutra. So it doesn't get more profound than that. And Sunday, we are going to have our monthly retreat. So that's a time where we'll get to unpack it a little bit. So my goal here tonight is to have to read through this portion of the text and give some context, maybe, or a little bit of elaboration, and lay some good context for it, hopefully, for what it means and how it's applicable. Heart Sutra is way above my pay grade, and so I'm going to hopefully be able to just merely elaborate. As Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, is this is his teaching, his explanation, his process for sharing it with a Western mind. So we'll depend on him. The last week's teaching, I suggested that people take some time to watch teachings by Venerable Tenzin Priyadarshi on the Heart Sutra. So we posted those links. Hopefully some of you had some time. It's really wonderful explanation and context for the Heart Sutra. So I thought that'd be valuable. And if you have not, maybe we'll repost them. I just shifted that today. But I think it's really valuable to have his context, and then we'll have some time on Sunday to see what we can derive from that precious sutra. Okay, so let me pop it up here. Takes just a little moment because with our new system, which hopefully the video is really good and the audio is good, does use every bit of my computer resources, so it just takes a little longer to click on each thing. There we go. All right. So as we've worked through the text, we've spent a great deal of time on emptiness, even in our last retreat. This is what liberates, right? recognizing our Buddha nature and having a direct experience of the truth of self, truth of phenomenon. Key point is it's beyond concept, beyond construct. It's something to be experienced. So that was something that Priyadarshi made just really good points about. Our mind is always wanting to grasp and conceptualize everything. And emptiness is actually about not doing that. But as His Holiness pointed out before we dove in here, that the value of analyzing, reasoning, getting some intellectual construct, so then we can let that construct melt away. This is going to be very valuable. But ultimately, this is beyond concept. So let's read about and conceptualize something beyond concept, which is really not where we ultimately want to go, but it's where we often need to start. So compatibility of dependent arising and emptiness. So this is really building that foundation of dependent arising and the explanation, a way that we can grasp emptiness. Buddha himself, in setting forth sutras, and Nagarjuna and his spiritual sons, Aryadeva, Buddhapalita, and Chandrakirti. This computer's pretty far away from me, so I apologize. Maybe I can pull it forward. Oh yeah, okay, now I can see. In commenting on the meaning of those sutras, use the fact that phenomena are dependent arisings as the final reason for establishing emptiness. This indicates that phenomena in general are not non-existent, and that impermanent phenomena are fit to perform functions. All right, so phenomena does exist, they do perform functions. The fact that they're empty doesn't mean they don't exist, they just don't exist in the way that we're conceptualizing and perceiving them. When Buddha taught the Four Noble Truths, first he identified true sufferings, sources, cessations, and paths. Four Noble Truths, that's what those are. And then he said, sufferings are to be recognized, but there's nothing to be recognized. The sources of suffering are to be abandoned, but there's nothing to be abandoned. Cessation is to be actualized, but there is nothing to be actualized. The path is to be meditated, but there's nothing to be meditated. So, right away our minds, what? And again, Priyadarshi makes some good points about this. There's nothing to get worked up about. They're making a point, and I'll let His Holiness make the point, but I'm just saying it's challenging something, but it's really making a point. The meaning of this is that although there are factors among the Four Noble Truths to be conventionally and validly recognized, right, in our conventional experience of things, it's valid. So to be conventionally and validly recognized, abandoned, actualized, and meditated, right, is what we do. There's nothing to be ultimately recognized, abandoned, actualized, and meditated. From the viewpoint of ultimate reality, all of these are beyond activity. Everything has the same taste in the emptiness of inherent existence. In this way, Buddha set out the perspectives of the two truths, conventional and ultimate. So things exist, but not in the way we're experiencing them. Ultimately, that's not their nature. Ultimately, the way I'm conceiving even of meditation is not what meditation is. And even meditation is this thing that arises in dependence upon a meditator and conditions and so forth. So conventional reality, ultimate reality. Conventionally, things function. I see things, I experience things, I have a label. I'm John, this is a body, conventional, valid label for this valid designation for this body, John. But if I look for John, John doesn't ultimately exist. John is a construct, a concept, label with no inherent separate existence. All of you are experiencing a different John right now. So, conventional truth, ultimate. So, things to be abandoned, there's nothing there to abandon, ultimately. All phenomena, causes and effects, actions and agents, good and bad, and so forth, merely conventionally exist, only nominally exist. They are dependent arisings, right? They arise in dependence upon all these conditions and so forth. Because phenomena depend on other factors for their existence, they're not independent. And that's really where we're going with emptiness, right? Nothing is inherently independent, inherently separate. And everything's interdependent and dependently arising. This absence of independence, or the emptiness of inherent existence, is their own ultimate truth. You will come to comprehend this true emptiness of inherent existence when you become dissatisfied with mere appearances and you use analysis to probe beneath the surface. When you thoroughly understand appearance and emptiness, you will also understand that they are in harmony with one another. Appearance does not preclude emptiness, and emptiness does not preclude appearance. Failing to understand this, you might believe in virtue, non-virtue, cause and effect, and so forth, but then be unable to believe in emptiness. Similarly, you might think that you understand emptiness, but then be unable to believe in the facts of cause and effect, help or harm, pleasure or pain that arise dependent upon conditions. Without proper understanding, emptiness and appearance seem to prohibit each other. So we can get caught up in extremes, right? Does it exist, not exist? Is that my body, not my body? If things are empty, then why would I get caught up on ethics and focus on these types of things? So, these two extremes that we can get caught up, nihilism or really inherently seeing existence in a particular way. But they're actually very, very supportive of each other with the proper understanding. I'll pause in a few moments here. However, phenomena are empty of inherent existence because they depend on their existence, for their existence on other conditions. And conversely, phenomena are capable of functioning because they are empty of the solidity of inherent existence. If phenomena were not empty of inherent existence, if they did exist by their own power, then it would not be affected by other causes and conditions, right? It would just exist on its own. They would not change. In that case, they would not cause pleasure or pain, help or harm, good or bad, would be impossible. Full realization of dependent arising brings with it the double understanding of appearance and emptiness of inherent existence. The extremes of utter non-existence and inherent existence are simultaneously cleared away by this twin understanding. Knowing that phenomena arise prevents believing in the extreme of nihilism or nihilism. Which way do you say it? Nihilism, nihilism? Tomato, tomato, maybe someone will correct me. By allowing objects and beings to function in this world, allowing for the cause and effect of karma, knowing that phenomena are dependent also prevents believing in the extreme of inherent existence by eliminating that phenomena exist in their own right. Through understanding these two truths, you arrive at the middle way. Okay, so just pause there for a moment. And I'm actually gonna reach over and get a seltzer water. His mouth is dry. So hopefully we're hanging in there. You know, those of you, some of you, you've done the retreat. We've been talking about this. These two truths we've been talking about, independently arising events. Understanding that emptiness does not mean things don't exist. They're empty of these qualities that we attribute to them. They're not inherently within them. And so they appear to us in particular ways. They function. There's cause and effect. There's a efficacy to them. But when we look a little more deeply, they're not separate and independent as they appear, not solid. So I'm just going to pause there. Anyone has a question or a comment while I take a little sip of my seltzer water. Probably should have muted before I took that guzzle, huh? All right, got a chat message here. Either pronunciation of nihilism is correct. Thank you. Appreciate that. Nihilism, nihilism. I like saying nihilism. I think I like it. Okay. So as we unpack this, we're going to go to the Heart Sutra. So what I'd like to do tonight is read through the Heart Sutra. Again, there's a certain benefit to hearing the teachings, to having these things brought down and read and thought about, these three wisdoms: hearing the teaching, contemplating teaching, meditating on teaching, and lay hopefully a good foundation for our time on Sunday. But just, this summary is laying just a reminder: things exist, phenomena exist, but they exist in dependence upon causes, conditions, factors. And then they appear to us in a particular way. And even how they appear to us is it's going to be shaded, it's going to be dependent on arising for someone to appear to you, the thing that's appearing, so forth. And then the dynamic, like all of you are experiencing a different John right now. And there's not some separate, independent John that's not changing. And everyone's experiencing a different one subjectively. So I'm arising independence upon all of your conditioning as well as the computer and technology and the internet and all of those things, this camera and so forth. I'm also arising independence upon your conditioning, your observations, level of attention, experience of knowing me, not knowing me. But, fundamentally, I'm really not, I'm appearing in your mind somewhere. There's a construct in the mind. It's not me over here, traveling through satellite, coming down through on your computer screen. You really, it's arising in your mind, this idea of who John is. But that's not how it appears. So that's this very deceptive way that we experience this world we live in. And then we think things are independent and things are the way they appear, and they're the source of happiness or suffering. And then, I want more happiness, less suffering. So here I start creating all the karma and the kleshas and the afflictions and the attachments and the graspings that create my experience here and how I experience all this phenomena. And the path is about unwinding that web of conditioning and sort of web I've built up, these constructs. And, just unwrapping them, letting them fall to the wayside a bit so I can experience things more accurately without all the projection, labeling, and so forth. And so the Heart Sutra cuts, it challenges that. It cuts right to it, wording very specific. And for those of you, I think most people are probably familiar with the Heart Sutra, but these wisdom teachings that said to have that took place, it's actually not the Buddha speaking, it's Chenrezig Avalokiteshvara, who's giving the teaching inspired by the Buddha, who's there in meditation, and all these arhats and so forth, monastics up at Vulture's Peak in India. And the Buddha's there. And this is this flow of clarity around the nature of experience and reality, this second turning of the wheel of Dharma. So, His Holiness is going to have us do the Heart Sutra. It's short, but incredibly potent. Pull it up here. There we go. Really, it's going to pop up. There we come. Okay, we're getting there. Hopefully everybody has a book. Okay. So, the Heart Sutra. What is the relationship between objects and their emptiness? This profound topic is addressed in a scripture on the perfection of wisdom called the Heart Sutra, which is recited and meditated daily throughout the great vehicle Buddhist countries such as China, Japan, Korea, Mongolia, Tibet, and Vietnam. It is a short and pithy presentation by Buddha about the wisdom required to overcome problems at their roots, and in conjunction with an other-directed motivation and compassionate deeds. To attain the omniscience of a Buddha, here is the Heart Sutra in its entirety. This is by the Buddha, it's really Chenrezig speaking, inspired by the Buddha. And Shariputra's the one to ask questions. So, homage to the supramundane, victorious perfection of wisdom. This is what I have heard. At one time, the supramundane victor was residing together with a great community of monastics and a great community of bodhisattvas on Vulture Mountain in Rajagriha. At the time, the supramundane victor was absorbed in the concentrated meditation of the enumerations of phenomena called perception of the profound. At that time, the Bodhisattva great being, the superior Avalokiteshvara, Chenrezig, also was observing the practice of profound perfection of wisdom and was viewing even these five aggregates. Right, the five aggregates is what constitutes us as who we are beings: forms, feelings, discriminations, compositional factors, and consciousness. These are these five aggregates that actually make us up. So the Buddha was meditating, so was Avalokiteshvara, and meditating on the profound, on these five aggregates as empty of inherent existence. So they're meditating, they're doing this very standard approach of meditation of the emptiness of these five aggregates. Then through the Buddha's power, the Venerable Shariputra said to the Bodhisattva great being, the superior Avalokiteshvara, he asked the question, How should a child of good lineage who wishes to practice the profound perfection of wisdom train? The Bodhisattva, great being, the superior Avalokiteshvara, replied to Shariputra. Shariputra, sons or daughters of good lineage who wish to practice the profound perfection of wisdom should view phenomena as follows. They should correctly and thoroughly view even these 5 aggregates as empty of inherent existence. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is not other than emptiness. Similarly, feelings, discriminations, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Those are the other aggregates. Shariputra, in that way, all phenomena are empty, without characteristics, not produced, not ceasing, not defiled, not separated from defilements, not decreasing, not increasing. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there are no forms, no feeling, no discriminations, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no forms, no sounds, no odors, no taste, no tangible objects, no other phenomena. In emptiness, there is no I constituent, though to no mental constituent, and though to no mental consciousness constituent, that all got shoved together. In emptiness, there is no ignorance and no extinguishment of ignorance, through to no extinguishment of aging and death. Similarly, in emptiness, there are no suffering sources, cessations, and paths, no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since bodhisattvas, the great beings, have no attainment, they rely on and reside in this profound perfection of wisdom. Their minds are without obstruction and without fear. Having thoroughly passed beyond error, they go to the finality of nirvana. Even all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future become manifestly and completely awakened into unsurpassed, complete, perfect enlightenment in the reliance on this profound perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom is the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to and unequaled, the mantra thoroughly pacifying all suffering. It should be known that since it is not false, it is true. To state the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, it is thus. This is sort of the literal translation. Proceed, proceed, proceed thoroughly, proceed beyond, to be founded in enlightenment. Sometimes gone beyond, gone far beyond. In that way, Shariputra, Bodhisattva, great beings, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. So, gave the answer. Then the supermundane victor rose from concentrated meditation and said to the Bodhisattva, great being, the great superior, Avalokiteshvara, good, 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 child of good lineage. It is so, it is so. In just the way that you have indicated, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced. Even the ones gone thus admire this. Supermundane victor, having pronounced this, the venerable Shariputra, Bodhisattva, great being Avalokiteshvara, all those in the surrounding retinue, and the worldly beings, including gods, humans, demigods, aroma eaters, admired this and praised what the supermundane victor had said. And that's the Heart Sutra there. So, a bit to unpack. And so, tonight we really wanted to lay just plant the seeds, open the door, create the conditions, so we can go a little more deeply on Sunday. But this is really the core of the wisdom teachings within the Mahayana tradition, this Heart Sutra, and has pointed out something that is meditated, read, taught, just throughout the whole Mahayana tradition, and really pointed to as the pith and instructions for understanding the nature of reality. There's even traditions within Zen that's it's just this. They repeat this mantra, it's pith instructions on this sutra. And as you can see, the way it's written, it gets people's kind of wound up. There's no this, there's that, there's nothing to be attained, and nothing to be achieved, and yet we're on a path. So how am I striving to achieve something that I'm striving to not strive? I'm striving to not achieve. And so I think, from my side personally, and again, stuff's above my grade, my pay grade, that the presentation of it allows for an opportunity to unravel some of the constructs, because it can quickly become something that's hard to get our head around. So there's an invitation to not try to get your head around it, to allow some experience with it. But I think His Holiness did this very nice foundational approach around dependent origination. So we start to understanding that ears, eyes, these things that have don't exist, do exist in dependence upon. So these two truths need to be really understood as we approach the Heart Sutra. But understand that everything that we experience, everything that and how we experience, is always dependently arising in dependence upon not just all these other myriad of causes and conditions, but also my own conditioning, which is filling in much of how I experience all of this, whatever I'm experiencing, whether it's a seltzer water or a laptop or a camera. And then none of this is inherently existent. None of this is independent. None of this is solid. And these are constructs of my mind, concepts of my mind, even an ear. We break that down. Is it the skin? Is it the shape? What makes it the ear? And actually, I think the ear is inside the inner ear item. And as we pick it all apart, we're going to start. And just the idea of an ear is, that's an idea. It's a construct. It's in my mind. It's not here. And so things don't exist on an ultimate level, but they do exist very, very much. The concepts don't exist on an ultimate level. Phenomena is existent, but how it's appearing to me, how I experience it, all of that's going to be very subjective, and none of that's solid. It's not how we tend to function in the world, though. So this takes that time to develop a process to unravel that a bit and be able to experience ourselves and phenomena, others, at a more or a less entangled, a less elaborative way, without all the storytelling or the projection or the things that we put on people. and allow some of that to not have to arise. So we don't need to keep creating this misperception of myself and the world and keep creating the karma that keeps perpetuating samsara. Instead, I can start experiencing this much more momentary, moment-to-moment experience that I'm having with all of you right now. And know that it's arising briefly, very temporarily, and independence upon a myriad of causes and conditions. And it's going to continue to flow, not this solid being and you're not solid beings. And this moment's arising dependence upon all of our experience and the computer and the internet and all these things that gave rise and all the conditions that gave rise for us to actually want to be the Dharma teaching or to have met the Dharma and to be here, and all those people that, had throughout time passed these teachings down. And even to the point of imagine, you see the profundity and the depth through which this is being explained. And if you go back 1,000 years, and there's people sitting around having this piercingly sharp pinpoint examination and explanation of the nature of experience, and it allows for us to be here tonight. Pretty amazing, but we don't generally see all that. We just see it's Wednesday night. I got my computer on. Wonder what John's going to sound like with his nose open. Which, by the way, pretty excited. A little side note, dependent arising during the meditation, I could just breathe through my nose. Normally I have to mute everything so you don't hear this massive thing going on. So I could just meditate. Pretty grateful. So appreciate that. Conventionally, this body is doing all right. So let me just check in. We got 5 minutes, and any questions or thoughts around this understanding of the two truths, conventional ultimate, of dependently arising objects, events, experience. And this understanding emptiness isn't about things non-existing as we're experiencing them, not inherently existent, not separate and independent from their own side, but only independence upon. A reflection on these points, drawing from a long tradition of Indian and Tibetan commentaries, Heart Sutra will offer some food for thought on its central passage. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form, form is not other than emptiness, emptiness is not other than form. This pithy statement contains much meaning. Then, can we go through these points here? And there's 5 that we can work through and consequently, come to a greater experience with what is being shared here. See how far? Yeah, so there's some things to unpack, to dive into that when we have 3 hours, it'll be a little nicer to sort of gradually let those points evolve and get some clarity with them, experience with them as well. And again, if some of this just seems like, out there, I totally get that. I've shared before, and some of you have been around a while. I remember going to Dharma teachings with Geshe Gelsen, and him talking about emptiness, and I just, this is not gonna. It's way, that's not for me. Never get there. Non-dual nature. I just want to be a good person, and these teachings on ethics and being happier and And that's my work for this lifetime, and that's going to do. And the way Dharma works, though, is that as we cultivate merit and conditioning, wisdom can arise. So things that once made no sense to us can make more sense to us. The understanding that I have when I read something like this today is much different than when I had before. And some of that has to do with study, but a great deal of it, I believe, personally, comes from the merit, the conditioning, the ripening of the soil of my consciousness through ethical behavior, through a bodhicitta motivation. And that's what is holiness. If we go back to where we worked our way through the book, is that our motivation, our conditioning, are creating the fertilizer, of this consciousness that will be able to receive these teachings and understand them. So, don't ever feel like, well, it's just too much for me. There's something to be said for watering the seeds. There's something to be said for creating the conditions. There's, oftentimes receive a lung. A lung is a transmission from a teaching by a holy master. And, I don't understand it. You just got that lung, it got transmitted, but those seeds are imprinted, and then they can, nurture and grow. So, there's, as we water these seeds, we're ripening something. And so whether it makes perfect sense or doesn't make any sense at all, it isn't as much a point as what we're doing is creating some conditioning, some ripening, so that experience can happen. Ultimately, this is much more about experience than intellectual knowledge. Intellectual knowledge is not going to get us emptiness. Experience will. And so just creating these conditions is invaluable. It's nice to take a moment to realize that we are touching upon the pith instructions of the path of awakening, the Heart Sutra, this core piece of teaching that is ultimately describing liberation. Not a small thing here, incredible opportunity. And with that, we'll pop up the dedication. Let's go ahead and dedicate. By this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore.